Right. So earlier this week, we did a home buyer Q&A seminar, and one of the questions that we got in that seminar was, what are the options for first-time home buyers? What special programs are there? And we get these questions all the time from people. So let's get this on video. Let's get your answer on video, so I don't have to keep sending people to you to make you repeat yourself. What are the options for the general DMV area for Northern Virginia, Maryland? I don't know if we have DC on here, but what are the options for first-time home buyers?
So first of all, typically first-time buyers, they do get better interest rate than those that are not first-time home buyers. There is Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they have adjusters to the interest rate when a person is a first-time home buyer. And so even if they put in money down and not taking advantage of first-time home buyer programs that help with down payment and closing costs, they still have benefit by getting a reduced interest rate. It does have some income limits. If income exceeds certain percentage of median income, then that adjuster goes away. But if you are within that limit, and I'm not going to say what it is because it depends on the county, right? So those median limits vary. So, but that's one benefit for first-time home buyers. But in general, if you're talking about, programs that help buyers with down payment assistance or grants, in Virginia, every state has their own programs. In Virginia, we have VH, previously known as VHDA. Maryland is MMP, and there's some other local grants that, different depending on the county. So let's just quick overview. I don't want to overwhelm people, but so let's talk about Virginia housing. They can visit to vhda.com, and the way the program works, they help with down payment. So typically you put 3% down. Let's say if it's conventional loan, you put 3% down. If FHA puts 3.5% down. So they would get 97% loan. And then they get additional second loan for 3% down payment. And if they have a good credit score above 680, they can get a 4.5% loan that would cover the 3% down payment and 1.5% closing costs. So half of the closing costs will be covered by that. So that's one option that VH has. Actually, they made a change to their policy, and the buyers that are not first-time home buyers also can get this loan as well. They have, they have, some a little bit higher interest rate than if you are a first-time home buyer, but this is a pretty good option for them as well. This program has income limits, and again, it depends on number of members in the household and the county. It varies, but they're actually pretty reasonable limits. It's not something very small. Even 200 over 200,000 in some areas and some options. So this is something that people can look up at vhda.com. Another option. So in VHDA or VH has is a grant, and grant is not a loan like on the first option, right? That was a loan. You have a mortgage payment on it, interest rate. Here it's a pure grant. It's free money that they would receive, and depending on the program, if they do in conventional or FHA, they would get either 2 or 2.5% grant. Again, it's not a lien against the house. It's not a mortgage. It's free money. They're basically getting this grant, so they would have to put only 1% down, essentially, and pay the cost.
That's great.
That's a pretty good option. Yeah. Maryland also has their own program, MMP, so they can visit mmp.maryland.gov website. And they have different options here. They have down payment assistance loan 5,000 or 3% down payment loan or 4% 5. So which with each option there's going to be rate difference, there's going to be um, income limit difference, so they just need to see which one works the best for this client. So
Okay.
I don't have slide for DC, but DC also has one that's called open doors, so you can check open door DC program. You can just Google it and get information on that. But besides this main programs, each county has their own grants typically, or maybe it's a loan, but it could be forgiven loan in 5 years, or it could be in deferment for the duration of the loan. So there's so many different programs. I can't, of course, go over all of them, but you just,
Right.
wherever you're looking at, you need to check maybe local county grants and see if their criteria meets you meet their criteria, your
Okay.
profile. One I want to show is a really good grant I really like. It's called Birdseed. It This grant, going back to VH grant, that grant stays throughout the year. With all other grants, they typically tends to run out of money at some point, and then you need to wait until they open up again. So the
Okay.
same with this Birdseed grant. They can give up to $15,000, and they're very easy to get because typically grants, they have their own little guidelines. They might say that your debt to income ratio cannot exceed this, or you have to work in this county for X amount of years to get this loan, or you have to have certain credit score. So these guys, they just saying, you can do conventional FHA and you just follow their guidelines. We're not gonna tell you what to do with how to qualify people. The only thing that they need to qualify on is, they need to be first time home buyers. Everybody has to be a first time home buyer.
Okay.
And they have certain ethnicities that they would give the grants to. Right here, you can see American Indians, Indigenous, Native Alaskans, Asians, Pacific Islanders, Black, African American, Hispanics, and Latins. I'm not sure.
Do both borrowers have to be one of those, or is it only one?
I'm not 100% sure, honestly. That's something that what happens is when the borrower contacts them, and those guys are actually very responsive
Yeah.
and easy to work with from lender standpoint, and I know that they interview them, so they go to interview. I guess they need to see a person, and the you can see the grant amount is from 5 to 15,000. So they have their own criteria. They probably look at income in a way, right?
Yeah.
But that's something that they would advise the client on. And the property where they buy needs to be located in DC, Montgomery, or PG County, that's in Maryland, or Arlington, Fairfax County, and City of Alexandria and Falls Church. So it's a
Okay.
pretty good circle where clients
Yeah.
can buy and qualify for this one. So
Yeah.
I wanted to just mention this one. And again, the Google is is a king. Just check what they have in there, and if if it's something that it's interesting for you, and check which lenders work with those programs, because not all lenders would support special grants or programs.
That's a
Okay.
good point. That's a good point. And are they fairly easy to apply to? Do you know?
Well, I think it depends on, like, the birdseed one. It's pretty easy. Some, especially when it's affordable dwelling units, and you have to get in line, and you have to
Okay.
go through interview and a process. So it all depends on the grant, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Well, I think this is really good that it follows a market report that we just did was 5 reasons to buy versus rent.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think this is really good to follow that. And one of the things I think is important to mention, because, first time home buyers, especially if they're coming from renting to buying, it's kind of like, oh, wait, what, you're talking about grants that can not only make up for, grants and loans, right? That can not only make up for their down payment, but also some closing costs. And then can you also mention the time frame from when they close to when their first payment is due? Because that's very, very important for first time home buyers coming from renting to buying.
Yeah. Basically, it's always the same. You're going to skip 1 month of payment. If you buy in November, your payment is going to be due in January. So in a way, it depends on when you settle in November. It could seem like it's 2 months, right? Because if you settle in the very beginning of November, you're going to wait until January 1st to make payment. Sort of 2 months, but it's one because you skip in December.
And that can be a really big deal because, if your rent's $1,500 a month, and you close at the beginning of 1 month, like November 2nd, say, and then your first payment isn't due until January, it's like, ooh, okay, that's good for moving, rental trucks and all that kind of stuff. That's
a very
really
good break for them. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So on all these grants and all these loans and everything, is a first-time home buyer defined the same way? So somebody who's never owned a home, or is it somebody who hasn't owned a home for a certain period of time? Because I know that there's some variance in that in some programs.
Yeah, it's a very good point. So every program has their own definition of first-time home buyer. For example, Virginia Housing, their definition of a first-time home buyer is someone who hasn't owned a home, a primary residence, for the past 3 years. So the caveat is primary residence. So someone who owns investment property, but currently, renting something or living, with relatives or something, they're first-time home buyers to qualify for VH program. Maryland program is, you didn't own anything for 3 years. Some programs, they say you might never own the home, like Birdsea is saying you have never owned a home. So
like you're true first-time home buyer.
It's kind of very dependent on the grant or program. But typically, in general, even like to qualify for conventional, if they do a regular loan, remember I mentioned that they get discounted interest rate even if they put money down. The definition is you have not owned the property in the past 3 years.
Okay.
All right.
That's good.
Very good.
This is really great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to send this to the person that asked that question at the workshop.
Oh, yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah. All right. And you know who you are when you receive it. Where am I supposed to be looking? All right. Okay. Anything else?
No. How did they get in touch with you?
They can call me at 571-245-3000.
All right.
That's
All right. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye.